everyone. So this is a short video just to introduce my comic class students to the Ames lettering guide, which is kind of ancient. I'm being slightly sarcastic, but with comics these days, so many people are doing them digitally that something like this wouldn't be required. But it's handy to have around to do hand lettering, and I've had one in my kit since the late 80s, and I only really use it for a few things. Now, I frequently just use these holes at the end to make guides for lettering, and this just makes like sort of even grids. So if I had a panel on a page and I wanted to letter it, I'd line up one of them with near the bottom, and do the next, and give myself some guides. And I tend to kind of wing it with my lettering, a little bit freehand. I use a more cursive style of lettering when I do hand lettering. And this is part of the reason why in general actually I've fallen out of the habit of using this, because a lot of times what I'll do now is hand write the text freehand on a piece of paper, proof it. I'll do that in blue, and then ink it and scan it, and then do the balloons separately and have them all in layers in Photoshop. But I can size things and I don't have to worry about it. In fact, I kind of like the more organic look, so I don't have super even lines. But if I wanted to affect the look, that's one way to do it. And then the other way they're designed to be used is so you can turn this center dial. And the reason for that is there's a little hash mark here at the bottom and several along there, and if you want to get into taking the actual measurements, you can measure off the exact ratios. And this is helpful if you know how big you want your lettering to be when it's finished and you're going to do the lettering at a larger size. So you would set it at one that worked, and you could still do it on the page right over the balloon, or you could have it on a blank sheet. And the way it works is, so there's these little arcs here and here as well. These are just slightly differently spaced versions of the same pattern. You've got three, and if you start with the top, when you skip this one at the top here, you start with the first one that's linked with a little loop, and you draw a line. I'm sort of just gently pushing in. You'll need another ruler, because you need to use the second ruler as a guide. Now, if you go to the other end of that little arch, and then the next arch, and so forth, you get 1, 2, and 3 ruled lines with a nice size gap for lettering. The middle one, if you do that, you only use this if you need to do lowercase letters. Like so. So that's how you use the Ames guide. Now, if you wanted to do more traditional drafting style letters, that's why these angles are here. So this is to make your vertical lines, okay? And this is diagonal and vertical. You would want to not move your ruler, but there's your N. And I've used this also for lettering posters and other kind of situations where I needed to lay out some quick lettering. Another way to use the Ames guide to do smaller lettering for, like, say, comic books. So it's highly variable. It depends on the tilt of this wheel, and we're going to use the center markers now, but in the same kind of alternating pattern, just by skipping a hole. So I'm going to set it fairly low to make more narrow lines. And use one underneath that, and then skip one, and do one underneath that, like that, and above, skip one. Oops. Try even more severe angle. Skip one. There we go. Skip one. And now you have small this is more the signs that you end up doing a lot of comic lettering. I just want to mention too, so remember these are the arcs I was mentioning, and take note that you want to be putting your pencil through this side, so the holes are tapered and they're smaller on that side. You won't be able to get them in if you go through the wrong side. I'll let the pencil in through this way though. There are other ways you can do it now digitally, like sometimes I want the look of hand lettered stuff, but I'll just block the text out in a sort of generic font, Helvetica, or even something that's got more of the serifs that I want to aim for, but I'm going to redo with my brush, and I'll print it out in light blue, much the way I do my art, and then ink it with my brush to give it the organic hand done thing. So that's kind of a quickie way to do this. But for classic hand lettering, this is how you use your Ames lettering guide.